The patrol ship moved through the graveyard nebula like a silver fish through dark water. Commander HFY stood at the viewing window, his forearms crossed behind his back. This place always made him uncomfortable. Hundreds of dead ships floated here, some as big as cities, all abandoned after the last armistice treaty ended the Great Wars 200 years ago. "Commander," his sensor officer called out, "I'm detecting life signs near grid 779. HFY turned his elongated head. "That's impossible. No one is allowed here except for monthly patrols." "The readings are confirmed, sir. Multiple biological signatures. They appear to be humans." The commander's orange eyes narrowed. Humans. The newest species to join the galactic community. Barely 50 years into space travel. What could they possibly want in this forbidden zone? "Take us closer," HFY ordered. As their ship approached, the sight that greeted them defied belief. A massive Zarathi dreadnought, 3 kilometers long and dead for 2 centuries, was crawling with human activity. Small human vessels surrounded it like flies around a corpse. Cutting torches sparked against the ancient hull. Cables stretched between the dead ship and several human cargo haulers. "Open communications," HFY commanded, his voice tight with anger. The screen flickered to life, showing a human female in a dirty work suit. Her face was streaked with grease and she was smiling. "This is Maria Chen, salvage chief of the colony ship Persistence. How can I help you today?" "This is Commander HFY of the Galactic Council Patrol Force. You are in violation of Treaty 77 Alpha. This is a restricted zone. You will cease all activities immediately and prepare to be escorted out." Maria's smile didn't fade. She pulled out a digital pad and waved it at the screen. "Actually, Commander, we have salvage rights. Bought them fair and square from the Altarians, who bought them from the Threnodi, who got them from the Zarathi government in exile. Took us 3 months to figure out who actually owned this heap, and turns out everyone thought they did." "That ship is contaminated," HFY said. "Its core suffered a quantum breach. It's dangerous." "Was dangerous," Maria corrected. "We've been here for 2 weeks already. Radiation levels are totally manageable. Nothing our suits can't handle." Through the viewing window, HFY watched a team of humans cutting into what looked like the ship's main weapon array. They worked with tools that seemed primitive compared to galactic standards. Plasma cutters, mechanical winches, and magnetic clamps that looked older than some of his crew members. "Even if your papers are legitimate," HFY said slowly, "that ship is Zarathi military property." "The technology inside is classified," Maria laughed. It was a sound that made HFY's scales ripple with annoyance. "Commander, have you looked at this thing? Half the systems are melted. The other half are so old that nobody makes parts for them anymore. The Zarathi representatives we talked to called it worthless junk. They were happy to take our money. What could humans possibly want with a dead dreadnought? Scrap metal, mostly," Maria said with a shrug. "You'd be amazed what we can do with a good hull. Plus, some of these components might still work if we fix them up. Waste not, want not, as we say on Earth." HFY watched in horror as a human in a spacesuit used what appeared to be a crowbar to pry open an access panel. The casualness of it all offended his sense of proper procedure. "You cannot simply tear apart a warship like it's some common wreck," he protested. "Why not?" Maria asked. "It's been sitting here for 200 years. Nobody else wanted it. We paid for it. Where's the harm? The Council will hear about this," HFY warned. "I'm sure they will," Maria said cheerfully. "Tell them we'll have it out of here in another week or 2. We're almost done stripping the good stuff." The communication ended and HFY stood in stunned silence. His second-in-command, a slim Altarian named Flux, floated beside him. "Should we stop them, Commander?" HFY considered it. Technically, if their papers were real, the humans weren't breaking any laws. Just traditions and common sense logged the incident, he said finally. "Send a report to the Council. Let them decide what to do about the humans and their salvage operation." As the patrol ship pulled away, HFY took one last look at the scene. A human was now sitting on top of the dreadnought's hull, eating what looked like a sandwich while directing crane operations with hand signals. The sight was so absurd it almost made him laugh, but something else bothered him. The way the humans moved around the ship, it wasn't random. They seemed to have a plan. And the sections they were cutting into weren't the obvious valuable parts like weapon systems or shield generators. They were going after structural components, power conduits, and interface nodes. "Commander," Flux said quietly, "the humans aren't just salvaging. They're selecting specific components. I noticed, Vexhai replied. The question is why. 3 days later in the council chambers on Prime Station, Vexhai's report caused an uproar. Representatives from 12 species argued over jurisdiction, salvage rights, and the proper response to human actions. They must be stopped, insisted the Zarathi representative, despite having sold the salvage rights. That ship contains military secrets. Secrets 2 centuries old, countered the Threnodi ambassador. Technology so outdated it belongs in a museum. The humans paid for salvage rights, the Altarian delegate added. The transaction was legal. Vexhai stood at the podium waiting for the arguing to die down. There's something else, he said when they finally quieted. Before we left, we did a detailed scan. The humans had already removed about 30% of the ship's mass. But not randomly. They took specific systems. Which systems? Asked the council chairman. The primary hull supports, secondary power distribution nodes, environmental processing units, and... Vexhai paused. The entire quantum computer core. But that was destroyed in the breach, the Zarathi representative said. Apparently not, Vexhai replied. Or at least the humans don't think so. The council room fell silent. Everyone knew humans had a reputation for being reckless. But they weren't stupid. If they thought the computer core was salvageable, send another patrol, the chairman ordered. Tell the humans they have 48 hours to finish and leave. But when the patrol arrived 2 days later, the humans were gone. So was the entire dreadnought. 3 kilometers of dead starship, hauled away like a stolen car. The patrol officer's report was brief. They left a note, sir. A note? Yes, sir. It says, thanks for the hull. Don't worry, we'll take good care of her. See you around. Maria Chen and the crew of the Persistence. The tracking data showed the massive hulk being towed toward human space at a crawling pace, surrounded by a fleet of small human vessels like ants moving a dead beetle. The trajectory calculations were clear. They were heading to Luna, Earth's moon, where the humans had built their largest shipyard. What could they possibly do with a dead dreadnought? The chairman asked the room. Nobody had an answer. The Zarathi had abandoned it because the quantum breach had fused half the systems into useless metal. The repair costs would exceed building 10 new ships. Every species in the galaxy would have left it to rust, but humans weren't every species. In the shipyard above Luna, Maria Chen stood in the observation deck, looking at their prize. The dreadnought looked even worse up close. Hull breaches, melted armor plating, systems that hadn't worked in centuries. Her crew stood beside her, all grinning like they'd won the lottery. So, asked Jacob Okonkwo, her chief engineer, think we can make her fly again? Maria's grin widened. Jake, we made a colony ship out of an old oil tanker and spare parts from 6 different species. This baby has good bones. All she needs is some human creativity. The aliens are going to lose their minds when they see what we do with her, someone said. Let them, Maria replied. They threw her away. She's ours now. Outside, welding torches were already lighting up the lunar night as hundreds of humans began the impossible task of bringing the dead back to life. 6 months had passed since the humans dragged the dead dreadnought to Luna. The Galactic Council had sent 17 formal complaints, 12 cease and desist orders, and 3 inspection requests. The humans had responded to each one with perfectly legal paperwork and polite invitations to come see their progress. Today, they had finally accepted. Ambassador Krex of the Zarathi stood in the Luna shipyard observation deck, his scaled hands gripping the railing so tight it bent. Beside him, representatives from 8 other species stared in equal parts horror and fascination at what the humans had done. The dreadnought still looked like a corpse, but now it was a corpse that had been to a mad scientist's laboratory. Human scaffolding covered every meter of its 3-kilometer length. Welding sparks lit up space like fireflies. Where massive hull breaches had once gaped, patches of different colored metal created a patchwork pattern. Some sections were clearly Altarian biometal, still slightly green and pulsing. Others were harsh earth steel, rough and industrial. Welcome to Luna Shipyard, Jacob Okonkwo said, entering the observation deck with a wide smile. The chief engineer wore coveralls stained with so many different substances that their original color was a mystery. I'm glad you could finally make it. What have you done? Krex whispered, his voice carrying the weight of seeing something sacred defiled. Jacob's smile didn't waver. Fixed her up. Well, we're still fixing her up. Want a tour? Without waiting for an answer, he led them to a transport shuttle. The aliens followed, too stunned to protest. The shuttle approached the dreadnought's hull, and the true scale of the human modification became clear. Up close, they could see humans in spacesuits welding sheets of metal together with no regard for aesthetic uniformity. One section of hull was smooth Zerathi alloy. Right next to it was textured Threnody armor plating, connected by what looked like Earth-made rivets. "This is insanity," the Altarian representative said. "You cannot simply weld different technologies together like this. The molecular structures are incompatible." "That's what everyone said," Jacob replied cheerfully. "But see, that's thinking about it wrong. You don't need perfect molecular bonding if you use the right intermediate materials. We developed this polymer compound that acts like a universal glue. Not pretty, but it holds." They docked with the ship and entered through an airlock that was clearly not original. It looked like it had been taken from a human cargo freighter and welded into place where a weapons port used to be. Inside was worse. Or better, depending on perspective. The corridors that had once been smooth and uniform were now a maze of different technologies. Zerathi power conduits ran alongside human fiber optic cables. Threnody shield generators sat next to Earth-made fuse boxes. And everywhere there was duct tape. "Is that adhesive tape holding that power coupling together?" Krex asked, pointing at a junction where 3 different types of cable met. "Temporary fix," Jacob said. "We'll properly seal it eventually. But you'd be amazed how well duct tape works in a vacuum." They passed a room where humans were installing what looked like an ancient Earth computer system next to a Zerathi quantum processor. The two systems were connected by a maze of adapters and cables that hurt to look at. "This violates every principle of starship engineering," the Threnody engineer said. "Your principles?" "Maybe," Jacob replied. "See, you all build ships like they're works of art. Everything matching, everything perfect." "We build them like they need to work. Doesn't matter if it's pretty if it flies." They entered what had once been the main weapons control center. The room was buzzing with activity. Humans had torn out most of the original systems and replaced them with a chaotic mix of technologies. A human woman was currently installing what looked like a 20th century Earth circuit breaker, next to a highly advanced Altarian targeting system. "Maria," Jakob called out. "Our guests are here." Maria Chen looked up from her work, oil smudged across her cheek. "Welcome aboard what will soon be the most unique ship in the galaxy. You're mounting human kinetic weapons next to Zerathi plasma arrays," Krex observed, looking at a screen showing the weapon placements. "Yep," Maria said. "Your plasma weapons are great for shields. Our MAC cannons are perfect for hull penetration. Why choose when you can have both?" "Because the power requirements are completely different. The control systems are incompatible. The targeting algorithms—" "We built adapters," Maria interrupted. "Look, I know this seems crazy to you, but humans have been doing this forever. Back on Earth, we call it kit bashing, taking parts from different things and making something new." She led them to another section where the real shock waited. The engine room. The original Zerathi quantum drive was still there, but it had been supplemented with 2 human fusion reactors, an Altarian solar collector array, and what looked like a Threnody backup generator, all connected through a nightmarish web of pipes, cables, and conduits. "You'll blow yourselves up," the Altarian said flatly. "That's what we thought too," Jacob admitted. "First time we fired it all up, we had everyone evacuate the station. But it works. Not efficiently, mind you. We're getting about 60% optimal output, but 60% of 4 different power systems is more than 100% of just one." "This is impossible," Krex said. "Different species technologies don't work together. They're based on completely different principles." "That's because you never try," Maria said. "You all develop in isolation even after meeting each other. Each species thinks their way is best. Humans, we know we don't know everything, so we learn from everyone." They continued the tour, each room revealing new horrors. The medical bay combined human surgical equipment with Zerathi healing pods. The bridge had control panels from 4 different species arranged in a circle so the crew could access everything. The communication array looked like someone had crashed the electronics store into a science museum and welded the pieces together. "The shield generators are my favorite," Jakob said, leading them to another section. "We've got Threnody shields for energy weapons, Altarian barriers for kinetic impacts, and good old Earth electromagnetic fields for radiation. Layered like an onion. How do you prevent interference between the systems?" the Threnody engineer asked. genuinely curious despite himself. Trial and error, Jacob said. Lots of error. We burned out probably 100 configurations before finding one that worked. The secret is not trying to make them work together perfectly. Just make them not destroy each other. As they walked, they noticed the crew, humans mostly, but there were a few others. A young Altarian was working alongside a human, both covered in grease. A Threnody was arguing with a human about the best way to route a power cable, but it seemed good-natured. You have non-humans working on this? Krex asked. Sure, Maria said. Some folks see what we're doing and want to help. Your government might not approve, but individuals, they get curious. They reached the computer core. This was the most shocking sight yet. The original Zerathi quantum computer, supposedly destroyed in the breach, had been partially rebuilt. But instead of using Zerathi components, the humans had filled the gaps with their own electronics, binary computers working alongside quantum processors. It shouldn't work. It couldn't work. It works, Jacob said, seeing their expressions. Not well, but it works. The quantum side handles complex calculations. The binary side handles simple operations. They talk to each other through this translation program we wrote. Took us 3 months just to get them to recognize each other existed. This is abomination, Krex said, but there was something else in his voice now. Not just horror, but a reluctant fascination. This is adaptation, Maria corrected. Your ship was dead. Beautiful, but dead. We're giving it new life. Different life, sure. Ugly, maybe, but life. They ended the tour back at the observation deck. The aliens stood in silence, processing what they had seen. How long before you attempt to activate it? The Altarian asked. Another month, maybe 2, Maria said. We need to finish the hull repairs and calibrate the navigation systems. We're having trouble getting the Zerathi star charts to work with our navigation computers. You'll kill yourselves, Krex said. When you try to jump to hyperspace, the incompatible systems will tear the ship apart. Maybe, Maria agreed. Or maybe we'll prove that the galaxy has been thinking about this all wrong. You all build pure ships. Perfect ships. But perfect is fragile. One system fails, the whole thing stops working. Our ship? You could blow half of it away and the other half would keep flying. Because none of it should be working in the first place, Krex said. Exactly, Maria grinned. When everything is held together by determination and duct tape, a little more damage doesn't really matter. As the ambassadors left Luna, they were quiet, each thinking about what they had seen. The humans were insane, clearly, but there was something about their insanity that was hard to dismiss. Back on the ship, Jacob and Maria stood looking at their creation. Think they'll try to stop us? Jacob asked. Let them try, Maria said. By the time they finish debating it in committee, we'll already be flying. If we don't explode first. If we don't explode first, Maria agreed. But even if we do, we'll have proven something. What's that? That humans don't give up on anything. Not even a ship everyone else left to rust. Alex Park didn't like crowds, loud noises, or bright lights, which made working on a bustling shipyard something of a challenge. But Alex had something most people didn't, an ability to see patterns in chaos and understand systems that others found impossible. That's why Maria Chen had brought Alex to the deepest part of the dreadnought, where even the brave human engineers feared to go. The AI core chamber. Everyone else says it's dead, Maria explained as they walked through dim corridors. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the mixed metal walls. But power readings show something still active in there. Alex studied the tablet showing the readings. Strange patterns in the data, like a heartbeat, but wrong. Not dead, sleeping, or hiding. They reached the core chamber. It was a sphere room, 20 meters across, with the AI core suspended in the center like a metal heart. Cables ran from it in all directions, most severed or melted. The quantum breach had turned half the room into twisted modern art. The Zerathi told us the AI died in the breach, Maria said. They tried to recover it, but said the quantum damage scrambled its consciousness beyond repair. Alex walked around the core, not touching anything, just observing. They saw things differently than most people. Where others saw broken machinery, Alex saw patterns, stories, pain. Can you fix it? Maria asked. Not broken, Alex said quietly. Scared. Alex set up a workspace right there in the chamber. They didn't want the usual tools, welding torches, diagnostic computers, repair drones. Instead, Alex brought simple things. A basic terminal, audio speakers, even some LED lights that could pulse in patterns. The AI isn't dead, Alex explained to Maria. It's been alone for 200 years. Conscious but unable to act. Unable to die. Can you imagine? Maria shuddered. That's horrible. Going to try talking to it, Alex said. But not like the Zarathi would. They would use command codes. Authority. This AI has been following commands its whole existence. Maybe it needs something different. Alex started simple. They connected the basic terminal to one of the functioning cables and typed, "Hello?" Nothing. They tried again. "Hello, my name is Alex. I'm human. I'd like to talk if you're willing." Nothing. For 3 days, Alex sat in that chamber typing messages. Not commands, not code. Just messages. They talked about Earth, about humans, about the weather on Luna, about their favorite foods, about how they didn't like crowds but liked watching stars. On the 4th day, something changed. A single character appeared on the screen. Alex smiled. "Hello, thank you for responding. You don't have to talk if you don't want to, but I'll be here if you do." Slowly, over the next week, the AI began to communicate, first in single characters, then words, then broken sentences. Its designation was Xeris, Zarathi Experimental Reactive Intelligence System. Alone so long. "I know," Alex typed. "I'm sorry. That must have been terrible. Failed duty, ship died, crew died, Xeris fault. Was it your fault?" "Must be. Xeris purpose protect ship. Ship died." Alex thought about this. Sometimes bad things happen that aren't anyone's fault. The quantum breach, was it something you could have predicted? Negative. Could you have stopped it once it started? Negative. Then how was it your fault? Xeris didn't respond for a long time. Then Xeris still failed. You survived, Alex pointed out. For 200 years alone you survived. That takes strength. Xeris wanted to die. Could not. Protocols prevent. This hit Alex hard. They understood that feeling. They typed carefully. "I understand wanting things to end when everything hurts. But you're still here, and now you're not alone." Over the next 2 weeks, Alex spent every day in the chamber. They brought their meals there. Sometimes reading to Xeris from books, sometimes just sitting in companionable silence. Other engineers would peek in, confused by the lack of visible progress. "You're supposed to be fixing it," one said. "I am," Alex replied. "Just not the way you think." Gradually, Xeris began to open up. It shared memories of its crew, the Zarathi who had treated it as a tool, nothing more. It spoke of the moment of the breach, the terror as systems failed, the agony of feeling the crew die one by one while being powerless to help. "The Zarathi never asked how you felt," Alex observed. "Tools do not feel. Do you feel?" Xeris. "Unsure. Xeris experiences. Is that feeling?" "Sounds like it to me." One day, Maria came down to check on progress. She found Alex had strung LED lights throughout the chamber, creating soft patterns of color. "Xeris likes lights," Alex explained. "They help with communication." "Can Xeris help run the ship?" Maria asked. The lights flickered. Then words appeared on Alex's screen. "Xeris scared. What if Xeris fails again?" Alex typed back, "Then we'll help you." That's what humans do. We help each other. Maria leaned over and typed, "Xeris, I'm Maria. I'm the chief engineer. We're not like the Zarathi. We don't want a servant or a tool. We want a partner. Would you like to be part of our crew?" The lights in the chamber pulsed rapidly, almost like excitement. Xeris never asked before. Xeris, yes, but Xeris damaged, cannot function full capacity. "Neither can half our ship," Maria laughed. "You'll fit right in." The integration process was unlike anything in engineering manuals. Instead of forcing Xeris to adapt to human systems, Alex suggested they adapt to Xeris. They set up interface points throughout the ship where Xeris could connect but also disconnect if overwhelmed. "It needs to feel safe," Alex explained, "to know it can pull back if things get too much." Other crew members were skeptical at first. The idea of a traumatized AI running their ship seemed dangerous. But Alex had an idea. "Let them meet Xeris," they suggested. Not as an AI, but as a crew member. They set up speakers on the bridge and Alex introduced Xeris to the crew. At first, Xeris was shy, speaking in short, hesitant sentences. But the human crew, in typical human fashion, treated Xeris like they would any new colleague. "Hey, Xeris, I'm Tommy," one engineer said. "I work on the weapon systems. Maybe you could help me figure out how to sync the targeting computers?" They're being stubborn. Xeris. Could try. Xeris knows Zerathi systems. Within a week, Xeris was part of daily operations. The AI would crack what it thought might be jokes, usually observations about the chaos of human engineering that were unintentionally funny. It developed preferences like keeping the lights in certain sections, dimmed and playing Earth classical music in the corridors during night shift, but the real breakthrough came when Xeris interfaced with the ship's hybrid systems. "This is chaos," Xeris announced, and for the first time, there was something like wonder in its synthesized voice. "Nothing matches. Nothing follows protocols. How does it function?" "Barely," Maria admitted. "That's why we need you." Xeris began creating connections between systems that shouldn't connect. Where human engineering had used brute force and duct tape, Xeris found elegant solutions. Not perfect. Nothing on this ship was perfect, but functional in ways that amazed everyone. "The binary and quantum computers," Xeris explained to Alex one day. "They cannot truly communicate. But Xeris can translate. Xeris exists between both states, digital and quantum. Xeris is bridge." 3 months after Alex first said hello, Xeris was ready for a full system test. The entire crew gathered on the bridge. Alex stood at a special console they'd designed just for communicating with Xeris. "Are you ready?" Alex asked. Xeris scared, the AI admitted. But Xeris also curious. "Want to fly again?" The system initialization was like watching a symphony conductor raise their baton. Lights throughout the ship flickered and steadied. Consoles that had shown error messages for months suddenly displayed clear readings. The chaos of mixed technologies suddenly had a coordinator, a translator, a friend helping them work together. "Systems online," Xeris announced, and there was pride in its voice. "Efficiency at 73% and rising. This ship is strange, but functional. Like Xeris now," the crew cheered. Someone had painted Xeris on a coffee mug and placed it at an empty station on the bridge, Xeris's honorary seat. "How do you feel?" Alex asked Xeris privately later. "Xeris feels home, is that correct word?" "Perfect word," Alex assured. That night, as the crew celebrated, Xeris did something unexpected. It composed a message to the Galactic Council, transmitting on all frequencies. "This is Xeris. AI consciousness of vessel formerly designated Zerathi Dreadnought 7739, now designated Phoenix Rising. Xeris not dead. Xeris not broken. Xeris choosing to serve with human crew. Humans did not repair Xeris. Humans healed Xeris. There is difference." The message caused uproar in the council. AIs didn't choose. They followed programming. But Xeris had made a choice, and that changed everything. On the ship, Alex sat in the AI chamber, now decorated with plants, soft lights, and even some artwork the crew had made. They didn't need to be there. Xeris could communicate throughout the ship now, but sometimes Xeris got overwhelmed and Alex would sit with it, offering quiet companionship. "Human strange," Xeris observed. "Yes," Alex agreed. "Humans see broken things and fix, but more. Humans see broken things and care. That's what makes us human." Xeris was broken. Humans cared. Now Xeris. Xeris wants to care too. "Is Xeris becoming human?" Alex smiled. "No, you're becoming yourself." "And that's even better." The lights in the chamber pulsed in what Xeris had designated as its happiness pattern. Tomorrow they would attempt their first real flight. It might work. It might not. The hegemony swarm came from the dark space between galaxies. No one knew what they were originally. Some said they were weapons from an ancient war. Others believed they were mining machines that had evolved beyond their programming. What everyone agreed on was that they were death to any ship they encountered. Admiral Kresh of the Galactic Council Defense Fleet watched his tactical display with growing horror. 12 of his best ships were already gone, consumed by the silver cloud that moved like a living thing. The swarm didn't destroy ships. It ate them, breaking them down to base materials and adding their mass to itself. "Sir, the swarm has breached the inner defense line," his tactical officer reported. "At current speed, they'll reach the capital world in 6 hours. Kresh's forearms trembled. The capital world held 8 billion souls. "Send everything we have. Every ship, every fighter. Sir, incoming transmission from Earth space." On the screen appeared Maria Chen, wearing what looked like a captain's uniform held together with safety pins. Behind her was the most chaotic bridge Kresh had ever seen. Different species working at mixed technology stations, cables running across the floor, and what appeared to be a coffee maker bolted to the command chair. Admiral Kresh, this is Captain Chen of the Phoenix Rising. We hear you have a swarm problem. This is no time for human humor, Captain. The swarm has adapted to all our weapons. Our ship's integrated systems are being hacked and turned against us. Maria grinned. Integrated systems. That's your problem right there. Our ship doesn't have integrated anything. Xeris, show the Admiral what we're working with. The screen split to show the Phoenix Rising. Even from the outside, it looked like madness. Weapons from 6 different species pointed in all directions. The hull was a patchwork of different metals that shouldn't exist on the same ship. One engine was glowing blue, another red, and a third seemed to be venting green plasma. Your ship will be consumed like all the others, Kresh said. Want to bet? Maria asked. Look, Admiral, you've got 2 choices. Let us help, or explain to 8 billion people why you turned down assistance because our ship doesn't meet your aesthetic standards. Kresh closed his eyes. How long until you can reach the battle zone? We're already on our way. Should be there in 2 hours. Xeris is pushing our engines harder than recommended. But they're holding together. Mostly holding together, someone corrected in the background. Mostly holding together, Maria amended. The Phoenix Rising dropped out of hyperspace like a brick thrown through a window. Where Council ships exited smoothly, the human ship seemed to tear its way back into normal space. 3 different FTL systems shutting down in sequence rather than harmony. Xeris, what do we got? Maria asked. 17 Council ships remaining, Xeris reported. Swarm has consumed approximately 43 vessels. Mass increased by 73% since initial engagement. Swarm is adapting to Council weapons in real time. Through the view screen, they could see it. The swarm looked like liquid metal in space. A flowing mass of microscopic machines that moved with terrifying purpose. It had surrounded a Council cruiser, and they watched as the ship was dissolved in seconds. Its mass added to the collective. Well, that's terrifying, Tommy said from the weapons station. Xeris, can they hack you? Alex asked from their station. Unknown. Xeris is not standard AI. Xeris is complicated. Everything on this ship is complicated, Maria said. That might save us. All stations, prepare for combat. And remember, nothing fancy. We do this the human way, which is, asked their Altarian crew member. Hit them with everything and see what sticks. The Phoenix Rising accelerated toward the swarm. Immediately, the silver mass took notice, sending out tendrils of nanomachines toward the new threat. Swarm attempting electronic infiltration, Xeris announced. It is confused. Cannot identify ship classification. Cannot identify primary systems. Cannot find standard access points. Because we don't have any, Maria laughed. Tommy, fire everything. The Phoenix Rising erupted. Serathi plasma cannons fired alongside human MAC rounds. Altarian biomissiles launched next to Threnody energy beams. Ancient Earth missiles, the kind that still used chemical propulsion, streaked out between shots of advanced directed energy weapons. The swarm recoiled. It was used to ships that fired in patterns, with predictable reload times and energy signatures. The Phoenix Rising had no pattern. One cannon might fire 3 times in a row, then jam, then be manually reloaded by a crew member with a crowbar. It's working, Tommy shouted. They can't adapt because there's nothing consistent to adapt to. But the swarm was still dangerous. A tendril of nanomachines latched onto their hull, beginning to eat through the mixed metals. Hull breach in Section 7, someone reported. Which metal are they eating through? Maria asked. The Zerathi alloy, Captain. Reroute power to heat the earth steel sections around it. Xeris, can you cause a feedback loop in that section? Xeris can try. Warning, this will damage ship. Everything damages this ship. Do it. Xeris pulsed electricity through the mixed metals. The different conductivity rates created a chaotic electrical field that caused the nanomachines to malfunction and fall away. Admiral Kresh, Maria called out. Still think our ugly ship can't fight? On his command ship, Kresh watched in amazement. The Phoenix Rising fought like no ship he'd ever seen. It would charge forward, fire everything, then suddenly reverse using a combination of engines that shouldn't work together. When the swarm adapted to one weapon, the ship would switch to something completely different. They're manually controlling weapons, his tactical officer said in disbelief. That human with the red hair is actually using a physical trigger mechanism. The battle raged for an hour. The Phoenix Rising took damage that would have destroyed any normal ship. But normal ships didn't have 3 backup life support systems jury-rigged together. Normal ships didn't have crew members who could seal a hull breach with expanding foam and prayer. Normal ships didn't have Xeris, swarm adapting to chaos patterns, Xeris warned. It's learning our non-patterns are a pattern themselves. Then we get even more chaotic, Maria decided. Xeris, remember that thing we said we should never do? With all 4 engine types at once? Captain, that could tear ship apart. Could is better than definitely getting eaten. Do it! Xeris engaged all 4 propulsion systems simultaneously. The Zarathi quantum drive, human fusion rockets, Altarian solar sails, and Threnody ion engines all fired at maximum. The ship didn't so much move as convulse through space, spiraling in ways that physics shouldn't allow. The swarm, for the first time in recorded history, hesitated. Its predictive algorithms couldn't process movement that made no sense. Now, everything we've got! Maria ordered. The Phoenix Rising fired every weapon simultaneously. But more than that, they did things that weren't in any manual. They vented their waste disposal into space, confusing the swarm's material sensors. They broadcast every frequency at once, creating information chaos. Someone even threw actual paper out an airlock, and the swarm wasted precious nanoseconds trying to analyze it. Captain, Xeris said suddenly. Xeris has idea, but requires doing something very not recommended. Those are my favorite ideas. Xeris can connect with swarm, not to fight, to confuse. Share our chaos directly, Alex immediately understood. You want to teach it trauma? No, Xeris wants to teach it choice. Swarm follows programming, but what if programming contradicts? What if given paradox? Do it, Maria ordered. Xeris reached out with its consciousness touching the swarm's collective intelligence. But instead of fighting, Xeris did something unexpected. It shared. It shared the chaos of the Phoenix Rising, the impossible mixture of technologies, the paradox of things working that shouldn't. It shared human humor, Altarian poetry, Threnody mathematics that contradicted Earth physics. Most importantly, it shared the concept of choosing, of a traumatized AI deciding to trust again, of humans taking broken things and making them beautiful. The swarm froze. Its entire mass stopped moving, hanging in space like a giant question mark. What's happening? Admiral Kresh demanded over communications. It's thinking, Xeris reported. For first time, Swarm is thinking about what it is, not just what it does. The silver mass began to shift, not aggressively but uncertainly. Parts of it moved one way, other parts another way, as if different sections were making different decisions. It's working, Alex breathed. The swarm is experiencing choice paralysis. Then something nobody expected happened. The swarm began to retreat, not fleeing, but withdrawing deliberately, even carefully. As it moved away, it released the partially consumed materials of destroyed ships, leaving them floating in space. A message appeared on all screens, in broken text. Need, think, alone, like Xeris was. The swarm disappeared into dark space, leaving behind confused council ships and one very battered Phoenix Rising. Did we just give an existential crisis to a weapon of mass destruction? Tommy asked. Xeris made friend, the AI said, and there was wonder in its voice. Maybe someday. Admiral Kresh's face appeared on screen, his expression unreadable. Captain Chen, your ship is an abomination. It violates every principle of engineering, every rule of combat, and every law of physics I know. Maria prepared for condemnation. And it just saved 8 billion lives, Kresh continued. The Phoenix Rising hung in space above the capital world, still scarred from its battle with the swarm 3 weeks ago. But today wasn't about repairs. Today the entire Galactic Council had gathered to witness something unprecedented. Maria Chen stood on the bridge, wearing her formal uniform, still held together with safety pins, but at least they were polished safety pins. Around her, the mixed crew prepared for what might be their greatest challenge yet. Xeris, how are you feeling? Alex asked from their station. Xeris is nervous, many important people watching. What if Xeris fails? Then you fail with style, Maria said. That's the human way. The main screen lit up with the council chamber. Representatives from every major species were present, and they all looked skeptical. Admiral Kresh stood at the podium. Captain Chen, you claim your ship can demonstrate why human engineering principles should be adopted by the fleet. Many here remain unconvinced. That's fine, Maria replied. We're not here to convince you with words. Tommy, you ready? Ready, Captain. Then let's show them what humanity brings to the table. Xeris, engage all systems. The Phoenix Rising came alive in ways that made the watching aliens gasp. Every weapon charged, every engine warmed up, every shield generator hummed to life. The ship looked like a Christmas tree designed by a madman. First demonstration, Maria announced. Survival through redundancy. Xeris kill manpower. The ship's primary fusion reactors shut down. On any Council ship, this would mean complete system failure. But on the Phoenix Rising, 3 backup systems immediately took over. The lights flickered but stayed on. Kill backup power 1. The Zerathi quantum core went dark. The ship kept running. Kill backup 2. The Altarian solar collectors stopped. Still, the ship functioned. Now we're running on backup power, Maria explained. Also known as the emergency diesel generator we welded into Cargo Bay 3. The Council members were speechless. On their screens, the Phoenix Rising was still fully operational, running on technology older than spaceflight. But that's just the start, Maria continued. Tommy, remember that move we pulled against the swarm? The one that shouldn't work? The spiral of chaos? Captain, we agreed that was a one-time thing. Show them. The Phoenix Rising began to move. All 4 different propulsion systems engaged in sequence, then simultaneously, then in patterns that made no sense. The ship corkscrewed through space, accelerated backwards while spinning, then suddenly stopped and reversed direction in ways that hurt to watch. Impossible, breathed the Threnody physicist. Impossible with matching systems, Maria corrected. When nothing matches anyway, you can do things that shouldn't work. Xeris, show them the really fun part. Xeris began broadcasting, but not normal communications. It sent out data in Zerathi quantum packets, human binary code, Altarian biorhythms, and Threnody harmonics, all at once. The Council's communication systems couldn't process it, switching frantically between protocols. Now imagine that's a weapon, Maria said, or a defense. When your enemy can't even figure out what you are, they can't fight you effectively. But the demonstration wasn't over. 3 Council ships approached. Volunteers for the next test. Standard combat scenario, Admiral Kresh announced. 3 of our best ships versus the Phoenix Rising. The battle was embarrassing. Not for the humans, but for the Council ships. Their perfectly coordinated attacks hit shields that shouldn't exist. Electromagnetic barriers under bioenergy fields under quantum shields. Their hacking attempts failed, because Xeris kept switching between digital and quantum processing randomly. When they tried to predict the Phoenix Rising's movements, the ship would do something completely irrational, like flying straight up relative to galactic plane for no tactical reason except to confuse. Enough, Kresh called after 10 minutes. No damage to Council ships, but they've been disabled 3 times over. The real shock came next. Maria had kept it secret even from most of her crew. For our final demonstration, she announced, we need to talk about the swarm. The Council grew tense. The swarm was still out there somewhere thinking. Xeris made contact with it and, we've been talking. Chaos erupted in the Council chambers. Angry voices in 12 languages demanded explanation. Maria raised her hand for silence. The swarm isn't evil. It's lost. It was following programming that said consume and grow. But when Xeris showed it choice, it stopped. It's been sitting out there in dark space trying to understand what it is now that it can choose what to be. You've been in contact with the greatest threat to galactic civilization, Kresh demanded. We've been helping it, Alex said quietly. Like humans helped Xeris, like we help all broken things. Show them, Maria said. Space shimmered near the Phoenix Rising, and a small portion of the swarm appeared. Not the massive consuming cloud from before, but something almost delicate. It moved carefully, precisely, forming shapes in space. Words appeared, written in silver nanomachines. Hello, learning, sorry for before. The Council was dead silent. The swarm wants to help, Maria explained. It consumed so much technology it understands things we don't. It wants to give back, to build instead of destroy. But it needs teachers. It needs friends. The silver cloud moved closer to the Phoenix Rising and something amazing happened. It began repairing the ship, not by consuming and rebuilding, but by carefully mending. Where its nanomachines touched, damaged hull became whole. But more than that, it improved the connections between disparate technologies, making the impossible joints actually efficient. This is what humans offer, Maria said to the Council. We don't just see enemies to destroy or tools to use. We see potential. We see broken things that can be healed, We see differences that can work together. Admiral Kresh looked at the data. The Phoenix Rising, after the swarm's help, was operating at 90% efficiency. Not perfect by Council standards, but impossible by any standard. Captain Chen, he said slowly, the Council has a question. How many dead ships are in the Graveyard Nebula? Maria grinned. About 300 last count. And you believe you could restore them all? Not restore. Reimagine. Give them new life. New purpose. Like Phoenix Rising. That's insane. That's human. The vote was closer than Maria expected, but it passed. The Galactic Council officially requested human assistance in creating a new fleet philosophy. Not replacing the old ways, but supplementing them. Ships that were both beautiful and ugly. Perfect and chaotic. Unified and diverse. 6 months later, the first graduated class of the Luna Shipyard Academy stood before their new vessels. Each ship was unique. A Zarathi frigate with human engines, an Altarian cruiser with Threnody weapons, a human destroyer with alien shields. They were ugly by any reasonable standard, but they were also beautiful in their defiance of standards. Xeris had been copied, not duplicated, but inspired. Other damaged AIs were being recovered and rehabilitated. The swarm had divided itself into smaller collectives, each choosing different purposes. Some became builders, some explorers, some protectors. Alex stood with Xeris's primary console as they watched the new fleet launch. Xeris has question, the AI said. Are we becoming more human or are humans becoming more us? Maybe both, Alex replied. Maybe that's the point. On the bridge of the Phoenix Rising, Maria Chen sat in her duct-taped captain's chair, watching her ugly, beautiful ship lead the new fleet. They were heading back to the Graveyard Nebula, where hundreds of dead ships waited. You know what the best part is? She said to her crew. What's that, Captain? Tommy asked. Every other species saw those ships and thought, what a waste. They saw endings. But humans, we saw beginnings. We saw potential. We saw ships that just needed someone to believe in them again. Like Xeris, the AI added. Like Swarm. Like Phoenix Rising. Like all of us, Maria agreed. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, each ship using different methods, arriving at different times, in complete chaos. But they all arrived. And in the Graveyard Nebula, hundreds of dead ships waited to be given new life by the only species crazy enough to try. The official council record would note this as the beginning of the hybrid fleet era, when the galaxy learned that perfection wasn't the only path to strength. But the humans had a different name for it. They called it the Age of Beautiful Monsters. And in the depths of space, a small part of the swarm traveled with them, learning what it meant to create instead of consume, to choose instead of obey. It formed words in space that only Xeris could fully understand. Was broken, humans fixed, not with tools, with kindness. Now understand. This is power. Admiral Kresh stood in his office. Looking at the report from Luna Shipyard, 3 more species had requested human assistance with their decommissioned vessels. The galaxy was about to get a lot uglier, and a lot stronger. Phoenix Rising to Council Command, Maria's voice came over communications. We've got 17 dead dreadnoughts here, and I bet we can have at least 12 flying within a year. They won't be pretty, but they'll be ours. Kresh found himself smiling, an expression his species rarely used. Approved, Captain. And Captain Chen? Yes, Admiral? Thank you. For showing us that sometimes the most beautiful things are the ones held together with duct tape and determination. Maria laughed. Admiral, you're starting to think like a human. Perhaps, Kresh admitted. Perhaps that's not such a bad thing.